have continued. It's been decided that we are continuing the the trend that was started. So there's a genre on Netflix that has popped up that is the I talked about Tinder Swindler not long ago.
Yeah, yeah, you did.
And so there's a whole bunch of this thing, and it's best described as the Gwyneth Paltrow Goop audience gets like completely ripped off for hundreds of thousands of dollars after falling in love with a complete con artist, and now here's the documentary about how stupid they were.
Can I ask you, for the audience, to explain exactly what you mean by the Gwyneth Paltrow Goop audience? I know exactly what you mean, but there are those that may not.
Okay. Well, straight up, it is quite usually your early 20s to anywhere up to your like mid 30s aged like typically business oriented, usually white girl going through the whether going through the different lifestyles of whether it's chakras, reikis, candles,
Can I interest you in a crystal?
perhaps some crystals, whatever type of special healing. Definitely doing the all your basic bitch wares and pumpkin spice
Maybe
lattes,
having
etc.
3 or 4 mimosas at brunch before driving to the office.
Most definitely, and yeah, and all in all, whatever type of complete woo woo healing life memes can be shared on their Instagrams every single day nonstop are blasted at full volume. So just the people who lean into all of that, they go to the experimental yoga and then they do the just yes the crystal reikis and whatnot, aligning the chakras. It's not quite the same as the Karen. It's getting into it's getting into the woo woo, and it's anyways, it's that. And so these documentaries tend to focus on those who just happen to also be, playing the dating game or doing whatever they're doing, and then getting suckered in somehow by some massive crook. And then we get to follow the story of how bad it goes from there, because the origin point is always one that's recognizable, but then the reason why the cameras get together and film the story and put the documentary together is not because of where it starts, but always because of where it ends. And so in this case, the next in that genre that we started watching is Bad Vegan, is what it's called.
Okay.
And Bad Vegan, it's a 4-episode one. I've only seen 2 of the 4 episodes so far, so I can't even give you the complete take on where it ends. But it is absolute just eyes glaze over at, like, the setup, which is what I described, that type of person.
Yes.
And they also, in this particular case, they happen to have the biggest, trendiest, most successful raw vegan food restaurant in New York City. And our story starts there, where through various Twitter interactions and friendships with mutuals, oomfies, I guess would be the word, one of my mutual friends, through being oomfies with Alec Baldwin, our protagonist, she meets this mysterious Twitter guy who makes these fun little quips, and then manages to parlay those into a date, and manages to parlay that into a relationship where it becomes a situation where she's this super successful multi-millionaire business owning vegan restaurant queen running that world in the city, with like celebrities walking through the kitchen type of shit. And then this dude shows up, humongous Cheeto stains on the t-shirt kind of thing.
Yeah.
And more or less establishes that, like, okay, by he sets up like two things right off the bat. One, at one point she walks into a room and he has his laptop open looking at drone footage, and then he minimizes it and then like locks the computer to like a CIA locked background, like and basically he's like, oh, I can't have you seeing my work, it's, you know, please tell me when, please knock before you. And she's like, oh my goodness, oh wow, okay. And then just like, yeah babe, you know, the type of work I do, you don't want to know about it, but I do the type of work that keeps people like you safe at night, you know. And looking into the distance type of shit sets that up.
I wish there was an audio way I could get like the just
yep, it's the
glazed look on my face across.
Right? You set that up. You establish that this is what you do, and this is why you're mysterious, and why you're back and forth, and you're never quite in the same place, even though he's just driving in from Ohio. And this somehow then escalates to a point where, through drip feed, he is able to get her to more or less subscribe to a one-man cult. Yeah. That is him promising that that by following the instructions he lays out very carefully and to the T, by sending him lots of money, she will be able to obtain immortality for her and her dog, so that in the next life, when this one moves on, they will be together forever with her and her immortal dog.
You know what I love about these stories? You ever see people that like unironically are like, you know, if you work hard, you'll get rich, or rich people earned it, or whatever that shit. And you watch shit like this, and then you watch shit like fucking Tiger King, you watch all this shit, and it's like, there is no correlation to any worldly state, to any level of intelligence whatsoever. There is nothing. And in fact, these types of rich people are often apparently way easier to scam.
This is the underlined message when you're watching these things, and like this was a big part of like the problem I have with watching some of these is that when they're telling you how dumb and insane the story gets, you can only get those details by having the person who's the victim of the scam on board. And to get them on board, you have to tell their story, and to tell their story in a way that they approve of, they cannot be made to look as insanely stupid as they clearly are. So there is tons and tons of padding around, because you're like, how do we get to the dog mortality? Like, the dog immortality is going to be clearly the stinger here. How do we get to that? And you have to pad it with tons and tons of shit to try and make it seem as if, oh, anybody in this circumstance that happened to be, if you were in her shoes, you would have fell for it too. And it's like, absolutely not.
It never works. It never comes through. But here's the thing. They're showing this to people, the people who have already fallen for it, who have proven themselves susceptible to this kind of manipulation. And even this weak sauce fucking pussy shit version of, see, anyone could fall for it. They're like, see, anyone could have fallen for it. Anybody. See how genius this was? And all the producers are sitting there going like, yeah, totally. And every single time this happens, the one that pops in my mind right now is Tiger King, for example. Every time it happens is like they record all the footage and they take every interview and they get every fact, and then the fucking thing comes out and all the people in it start to go, no, wait, no, you made me look bad. And it's like, we showed you it before it went out. Then you okayed it. You thought it was cool.
it's
You're
like
just mad because everyone's calling you a stupid dumbass.
the power of editing can do a lot, but like when they are there to anyway, when they're making sure that the image is softened enough, like I have to basically I'm cutting in to go, hey, like pause. By the way, recognize that like in this moment here they've cut away from the story to show you how great of a person this is, because here's that homeless guy that lives on her block who she became friends with, and here's the
For the
story
purposes of this bit.
yeah, and here's establishing how this homeless guy was like, oh yeah, she's the best, I love her and her dog is great and she's such a good person. And you know, and then it's just like and the only point of establishing that is to just be like, look, no, this is a normal good person. See, it's totally not her fault that she fell for this dumb shit. And of course, and then there's the starting with the success, of course, of the business and everything, where the beginning of the story, you know, it's a very quick hand wave, certainly, to establish that, you know, after graduating and going into a financial Wall Street institution and working there and making tons of money, of course, she decided that her passions were in food, and she mentions, of course, that, you know, based on that and I guess on what she had beforehand, she wasn't too strapped for cash, so she was able to then go to culinary school and go get right through it, and then no problem, and then set up the restaurant, and then hey, all good. She got her $2 million loan and then got the whole thing set up and great, and got her business going, and bam, it popped off, right? But that's all prologue. That's not, you don't worry about that part too much. The idea is that, of course, someone who is at the top of their industry here, yeah, no matter no matter what level of success you're looking at with this stuff, you cannot correlate that to their own, you cannot attribute that to their own genius or business acumen more than half the time, especially when it comes to the world of raw vegan food. I mean, I have nothing against a good green diet. That's what everyone I grew up with ate as a part of the health message of the religious thing, but you're not gonna avoid the trend. Like, they're showing you the trendiness of this type of place and the people who work here, and the managers and the waiters and waitresses are all also the types that are like, yes, raw vegan food and crystals and Reiki healing. These are cool things.
I mean, they're in New York, right? So New York has like a whole neighborhood dedicated to these people.
And, you know, so you can't get past that point, certainly, of just being like, yeah, you're set up to be the type of person that wants to believe in the nonsense. And
I want to believe.
So this fucker that comes in gets to a point where he sets up that whole game, and then like that, and that's why you need to transfer me $10,000 immediately, no questions asked, and I'm not going to do anything with the money. I'm just going to put it on a shelf, and it's just proof that this money means nothing because you're looking for the happily ever after with you and the dog that live forever. If you want to get that, send me the money and send me your credit card with the 3 digits on the back. It's the only way to get to the happily ever after.
You know, I think about this, and I think about, like, man, being a con artist is a fascinating profession because it is an art, and it's an art that gets to be improved over time cumulatively because there are no new scams. Like, now that I'm 36
just remasters.
Recently, happy birthday to me, but whatever. I'm old enough to look back at the history of my life and go through, like, well, as a kid, it was Nigerian email scams, all the way up to cryptocurrency now. And it's like, there is no new racket. It is always an old racket with a new coat of paint. Something about the pyramid scheme, for example, is like hard-coded into people's fucking brains. Mm-hmm. There is a certain percentage of people that will fall for any form of pyramid scheme every time. Every single time. And this one, too. The relationship magic, opportunity, investment fucking thing.
So what you're describing is like if you have a tinge of that hustle culture, that hustle blood, You know, if you got hustle blood in you, then you're just going to look on the opportunity to make one up and get on up, you know, stay on that grind, you know. But in this particular case,
stay on that Sigma mindset, man.
Absolutely. The Sigma grind set. What are you talking about, baby?
I don't know what I'm talking about.
All right. Listen, the thing about the remix though is that it always that's what's refreshing and fun to follow the story of. Is like, how are we gonna get
this time
what's
around?
the remix? What's the remix this time? You know, how are we gonna do it? Like, yeah, that makes sense.
So like with the Tinder swindler, it was, well, with the use of Tinder, I have the fastest possible source of marks that has been available to anyone ever in the history of anything.
Yes.
So good for them, I guess.
But what is going to be the Scam Super Turbo Championship Edition, right? How do we get it to that next level? And in this case, how far can you go with it? You start with the CIA minimizing moments.
That's
right?
good.
You get in there nice and clean. You set up the possibility of the future and the immortality with the dog, of course. And then, but at the same time, you've got to live your life, right? So when you're living your life, which consists of sitting on her couch and eating your Cheetos and just having, and spending all her money and doing nothing,
yes.
right?
Good, yes.
And she's like, you're fucking gross. You're disgusting.
Yes, good, excellent.
The move is to establish that, no, you're misunderstanding. This fat body I have is the meat suit. And I'm wearing the meat suit. This is where my spirit has been. This is what I've been given. And your mission is to deliberately be unattracted to this form of my meat suit body so that I'll know that you're really down for the cause and really dedicated, right? You're supposed to be unattracted to this body that I have, but I'll get the real one later.
You know what's great?
But I'm gross on purpose.
Because this is after the first $10,000 purchase of nothing, right?
Oh, we're in the hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point.
Okay, so at this point, this is the genius of this kind of racket. Let's say they have doubts, right? Let's say they have doubts because what you just said to me, Wooly, is fucking stupid, right? But let's say they have doubts, right? The nature of the fact that they've already kicked in 200 grand means that they're like, no, it has to be. I wouldn't have just given 200 grand to some slob on my couch.
And that's exactly what she says once the tape recording of the conversation is played and he's talking about the meat suits and such. That's where it's like, okay, at a certain point, you're like, well, sunk cost fallacy. We're in it. We're in it, and it's more comfortable to just disappear into the belief that that me and the dog are going to get that immortality, right? And also, of course, you have to sprinkle in a little bit of that Scientology flavoring of like, if you're successful, it's because that's what the universe owes you, right?
Magic.
It's of your own making.
It's the secret. It's fucked up new age version of karma. This complete nonsense.
You are special. And then whenever things get a little bit too complacent, whenever things get a little bit too idle, you have to make sure that, just like the Tinder swindler, a sense of urgency can be kicked up at any moment. And in this case, the dude's evil twin brother might be coming for him at any moment. At any moment, his evil twin brother.
You've been diving into these for a bit. Do you get the feeling that there's a point in the hustle that they're like, man, they're into me for like 300K. This has been a year, right? Let's just see what I can get away with. Because you just said evil twin brother to me.
I often wonder right off the bat how much of that is going on, right? How far can I push this, right? And like on the other line, then be like, holy shit, I can't believe, we're actually getting away with it.
If I got them to believe this, can I get them to believe this?
But when you hear in this particular context, and again, this is a bad vegan, when you hear the context of him trying, like she's pissed off and like, I'm starting to suspect that this is something's fishy about what's going on here. And he's like, what? No, fuck off. No, that's not, you're wrong. And he's exploding in these ways that are just like, oh no, you're kind of ill as well. And you're kind of believing in it, but you also have enough of your faculties about you to realize how you can profit off of this, you know? Yeah. And it really also just, you know, anytime you have someone like that and they're surrounded by people who, you know, I guess should be giving the advice to be like, hey, are you okay? And in this case, they are, but you're coming from this world where, like, more woo-woo equals good, you know? Yeah. It's gonna be hard to not spiral.
It's funny because, like, there's the 3 general stages that I'm dividing up in my head, but I mean, there's many subdivisions, right? There's what I'm going to call the pure money hustle, which is give me some money, I'll give you more money back. And you're like, this sounds like bullshit, but no, you could get a lot of money, right? And every variation thereon. There's what you're describing right now, which is a combination of love and maybe a little bit of magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also money. And then you get, like, we live in a world in which people will sign up, and within 3 meetings of, like, a wellness clinic, they'll have, like, some old guy be like, okay, so you give me all of your money, and I fuck your wife, and you don't fuck your wife, and you'll get to go to heaven with me. And there are people who go, yeah, oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go sell my house. Give me a second, man.
You sure about this? Yeah.
I also like. You're underrated in Suicide Squad, really. And Morbius, just more Morbius. That's what I'd like to say.
How about that? Get that sweep going. You gotta. It's a real fucking. I hope.
The use of the term "sweet" every time is what gets me. It's so consistent.
I hope it lasts for years. I hope years from now we are still referring to the hashtag Morbius sweep. I hope that when you click on that hashtag, you know, you see the journey over a decade of a lifetime. It's really a particular flavor of genre that is just like. It's incredible because you're watching in bewilderment of like how dumb the person is, but like in this case, again, the story's not done yet, but it's like you have to fight against the way this is edited to try and present this person as normal, as an everyday victim, and it couldn't possibly be fucking further from the truth.
It never is. It never is. Never.
Yeah, and so I don't know. At some point, they, you know, you have your little stingers and one of them is the you know, like the part where it's like, okay, so I'm going to introduce you to my associate, and he's the person you're going to need to give all of your financial information to, all of your numbers, your credit cards, your bank info, all the account data. You're just going to need to give that to him for security, of course, because when I go on these black ops, right, there's people out to get us, and we need to make sure that we stay in a secure location. So, you know, and then like, and then the documentary starts filming the associate that is involved in this somehow, you know. So we'll see, but yeah, it turns out there's quite a few of these, you know. I heard about another one called like Inventing Anna, but I think that's like not a documentary. I think it's just like a dramatization of a real story about someone who came in, pretended to be a princess in New York, and frauded a bunch of rich people out of a ton of money to get like some crazy fucking $50 million loan or some shit like that. I don't know. And a bunch of other stuff, you know. But I just wish there could be a director's cut or commentary to this stuff where they're just like, yeah, this is the part that we had to edit around to make the person that's the victim here seem a little less stupid. This is the part where we're putting in the fluff piece about, you know, how great life was, and this is the part where all the friends are going like, yeah, from the time she walked in with this guy, I just got a bad vibe. I just got a bad vibe about this guy. Bad vibe, you know. And you're like, I'm sure that was all what you told them at the moment, of course, right? I'm sure this is totally not in retrospect doing a retcon.
Hi, nice to meet you. Yeah.
Wow, really? Immortality.
You know, it. I don't know about you, Wooly. I've gotten a bad vibe from people before. I've met people and be like, I don't know about them, or I don't really feel they're trustworthy, based off of like nothing. The people that get like hyper scammed, I'm gonna call it, in these types of situations by people telling them, "Oh, magic and the government." I don't believe they have this ability to feel a bad vibe. I feel this is a thing that they lack in general.
It's either that or they have it, but what they want out of reality is so much stronger, and they're willing to compromise any other sense in order to hope and believe in the magic. You know, the desire to believe in the magic outweighs all other common sense.
So it's one of these things that I read somewhere a million years ago, like as a kid, and it's like it stuck with me. Oh, I remember where it was, from the Sword of Truth fantasy novel series. It's a villain's monologue, but it's one of those little pieces of thing that stuck with me. It's like the easiest way to get to people to believe anything is to tell them either what they want to hear or what they're afraid of hearing. And in this particular scam, it's both.
It's both. It's both. It's absolutely both. Yeah.
Here's what you want, but here's what would happen if not. Your dog, dead. Don't you want your dog to live forever?
Yeah, this is, so, you know, again, I'm going to have to see where this goes, but it feels as if there's always another one of these stories just around the corner, as there's a sucker born every minute, and a fool and his money are quickly separated. All right, so yeah, I'll report back on what becomes of Bad Vegan. Although terrible title that tells you nothing about what this is about.
Yeah, I thought this was gonna be like, I'm running a vegan restaurant and there's 10 pigs in every soybean.
I mean, it seems...
'Cause that would be a bad vegan.
Yeah, it seems like the restaurant is not the problem here, and is in fact, the restaurant is like, you know, elevated to this plateau of like, it was such a great time and everything was perfect until this guy came along, you know. So
yeah, if everything was perfect, why were you so desperate to
latch on to this
eternal
when
life?
the moment it
It sounds like you were actually desperate deep down in your heart, or something.